Today I'm looking at some of my collection of older memorabilia, particularly of things that individuals use, such as a daytimer or a date appointment book. This particular one was from McHenry, North Dakota, 1907. I checked the population of Bismarck in 1900. It was 3,000 people, so McHenry must have been a very small town. So small, in fact, this particular company sold hardware, machinery, livestock, and real estate, sort of what you would call a diversified company, if you will. In the front, we see the yearly calendar, and then some useful, helpful hints, as well as some tables on how to plant, for instance, suitable distances for planting, the strength of ice, for instance. Be interested to know that in Moorhead, Minnesota, the ice in the winter of 1900 was over a yard thick. I guess that would hold you up there pretty well. Lumber table, how many feet it takes to, how much tree cubic feet it takes to make a lumber foot. Also the capacity for corn cribs, which is important. If you're back in the Midwest in those days, the animals or others would certainly get your corn if you let them to. Left that. The amount of paint required on a given surface. The official census of 1900, and what I thought was interesting is you look at, for instance, Austin, Texas had 22,000 people. California was not as populated as you would think. For instance, the population of Sacramento was 29,000, and the population of San Diego was 17,000. So in 1900, it's clear still the bulk of the population was back on the East Coast. Some information on trains, mailings and stamps, and then into the actual entries themselves, and what we see is a list of, it looks like a grocery list, and I think we should remember with things like machine oil, soda, baking powder, cornmeal, towels, we have to remember is back in McHenry, my guess is the roads weren't paved back then, and if you were on a ranch or a smaller town, it might take you a day or two to get to a store, so you wanted to be sure and stock up on all the essentials. It's not like you could just run down to the Walmart there. Another interesting fact here is the labor was calculated in days, so you worked a day. It wasn't an hour, or it wasn't by contract. It was a true day labor agreement, and I guess the labor laws probably in the 30s and 40s changed that. And then it was, as he traveled throughout the country working, he made these entries in this book here of the work he did in the places that he was at, and he also put the days he worked and also a few addresses. I'm going to skip back to the end where we do find a few other tables of sorts of information, interest calculations, income and investments. One other thing that was sort of humorous that caught my eye was here, brief business laws, the business laws of 1900. There were two particularly funny ones here. Contracts made on a Sunday cannot be enforced. And then another was a contract made with a minor or a lunatic is void. And I guess what they were really trying to warn you about in this book was to watch out for those crazy children. Don't do contracts for them. Anyway, a little glimpse into the lives and the current president back then was Theodore Roosevelt. The little glimpse into the lives of folks that lived in the past.